Picture this: a dimly lit chamber in the heart of Madrid's royal palace, 16th century. Candlelight flickers across cold marble floors, casting long, trembling shadows. The air smells of burning incense, mingling with the faint tang of spiced wine that lingers from the evening banquet. Behind heavy velvet drapes, a teenage princess huddles, her small hands trembling, her heart hammering against her ribs. Every creak of the polished floor, every distant footstep makes her flinch. Across the room, her brother, the king, leans close, his breath warm against her ear. Words fall that no sister should hear, promises whispered like venom, binding her innocence into chains she cannot yet comprehend. Outside, the courtiers bow and murmur, oblivious to the dark obsession festering in these gilded walls. How could a sibling's love twist into obsession without consequence? The scandal that would rock Spain's royal court was only beginning. Spain, 16th century. The sun rises over the tiled roofs of Madrid, spilling gold across the streets. But within the palace walls, shadows hold sway. Picture this: the court of the Habsburgs, a world of grandeur and ritual. Yet beneath its polished marble and gilded tapestries lies a labyrinth of obsession, ambition, and whispered cruelty. Every corridor echoes with the measured steps of courtiers. Every banquet hall thrums with the tension of politics disguised as celebration. The king, young yet seasoned, moves among them with a smile that hides a razor-sharp mind. He is ambitious, ruthless in his pursuit of power, yet disarmingly charming. His presence bends the wills of those around him. Nobles flatter, spies observe, and even his most trusted advisors hesitate before contradicting him. But behind the grandeur, his thoughts linger constantly on his sister. Not merely a sister, she is a jewel of the dynasty, a symbol of lineage, a fragile instrument in the hands of a man who sees control as the ultimate form of love. She, barely a teenager, carries the weight of her family's expectations with an almost eerie grace. Innocent, yet intelligent, she has been raised to embody virtue and obedience, to serve the crown and the dynasty before her own desires. Her beauty is noted in whispered comments, her presence a political asset in a court where every glance, every gesture is measured. She knows the dangers of her position, the perils of envy, but she cannot yet comprehend the obsession that shadows her daily life. The political climate of Spain is one of relentless scrutiny and calculated alliances. The Habsburg dynasty stands at the height of its power, its influence stretching from the Low Countries to the New World. Bloodlines are sacred. Marriages are contracts forged in ambition, not love. A daughter is rarely a daughter first. She is a bridge between kingdoms, a bargaining chip in the game of empire. Arranged marriages are the rule, not the exception. Every encounter, every glance is weighed for its strategic value. Spain is a court of mirrors, reflecting ambition, loyalty, and betrayal in equal measure. And yet, amid this political chessboard, early signs of a forbidden attachment begin to appear. Private gifts, a delicately embroidered handkerchief, a small golden pendant, appear on her desk with no sender claimed. Secret conversations linger longer than they should, leaving courtiers to murmur that something is stirring behind closed doors. A glance held a heartbeat too long. A favor granted without reason. These small, almost imperceptible acts begin to blur the line between care and obsession. Family dynamics amplify the tension. Factional rivalries simmer beneath every ceremonial bow. The papal influence in court decisions is palpable, a constant reminder that even kings are bound by faith. Yet faith does not always restrain desire. Advisors tread lightly, caught between protecting the princess and appeasing the king's growing obsession. Every smile she receives is weighed in gold. Every whispered word is a potential trap. The sister's life, once filled with structured lessons and innocent afternoons in the palace gardens, grows increasingly confined. Her tutors insist on discipline, her interactions with other nobles are watched, and her days are punctuated by the king's attention, subtle at first, then more pronounced. Courtiers notice it, whispering, yet none dare confront it openly. The palace itself becomes both stage and prison, a gilded cage where the lines between familial love and obsession begin to blur. And still, for all the formality, the rituals, the expectation, a quiet tension coils in the air. Behind embroidered curtains, in empty corridors, in the quiet of candlelit chambers, the first threads of something far darker are taking shape. The affection that once seemed protective, even tender, is twisting. The king's gaze lingers. The gifts are no longer innocent. The whispers are no longer harmless. The court does not see it yet. The sister does not fully understand. But the stage is set, and the first moves in a dangerous game have already been made. Affection, loyalty, and innocence are about to be tested, and what emerges will forever alter the Habsburg dynasty. Affection was soon to twist into something far more dangerous, and the walls of the palace, silent witnesses to centuries of intrigue, would soon bear witness to a scandal that no mirror or tapestry could conceal. Trees tracing Habsburg lineage, maps of Spain and territories, portraits of the king and his sister, timeline graphics showing key court events. The palace that once seemed a haven of marble and gold now feels like a cage, each corridor stretching endlessly, echoing with whispers that chill the bones. The king's presence dominates every chamber, every whispered conversation. His obsession has grown like a shadow, darkening the life of his sister with an intensity no one dares speak of aloud. What once seemed subtle, gifts left in her room, favors granted, lingering glances, has mutated into something inescapable. She moves through the halls with careful precision, knowing the king's eyes are never far. Every step is measured, every gesture calculated. Private meetings with her tutors, her friends, even her potential suitors, are no longer private at all. Letters she writes in secret are intercepted, folded, and returned with notes she is too frightened to read. The court hums with tension, courtiers speaking in hushed tones, piecing together fragments of a scandal they cannot yet name. Imagine the moment a small gold pendant, once a token of simple sibling affection, is pressed into her hand with an intensity that leaves her breathless. His hand lingers too long, the room heavy with expectation, fear, and an intimacy she has not chosen. Could she ever escape this gilded cage? Even the sunlit garden, once a place of learning and play, now feels like a labyrinth patrolled by invisible sentinels, where each flower, each fountain, watches silently as her innocence is measured and weighed. Rumors swirl like smoke, reaching ears that cannot remain loyal forever. An intercepted letter falls into the hands of a suspicious courtier, its contents a dangerous admission of the king's fixation. Whispers spread. She cannot marry freely, her hand is bound in secret. Advisors, torn between conscience and fear, try to navigate the delicate line of loyalty, offering counsel that must remain unseen. Even a slight misstep could mean ruin for the sister, or worse, for any who dare interfere. A secret letter falls into the wrong hands. Who can she trust? The king's obsession becomes coercion. Arranged suitors are manipulated, their proposals undermined by subtle threats or bribes. The sister is instructed to smile, to nod, to comply. But in her eyes lies a storm of confusion and shame. Forced maturity replaces her innocence. Isolation becomes her constant companion. She learns quickly that her voice carries weight, but only when it serves his desire. Every word spoken outside his presence feels dangerous. Every glance carries consequence. Courtiers exchange nervous glances, the walls of the palace holding countless eyes and ears. Even minor gestures, a lowered eyelid, a turned shoulder, can spark suspicion or wrath. The king's temper grows colder, more unpredictable, and betrayal seems inevitable. Public humiliation is wielded like a weapon. A curt remark in the great hall, a subtle but deliberate insult, leaving the sister shrinking beneath the gaze of nobles who are simultaneously terrified and fascinated. In private, forbidden rituals begin to shape their interactions. A whispered command in a candlelit chamber, a request to perform a gesture that feels more like a test than affection, leaves her questioning every memory of love, every instinct of trust. Each encounter is a reminder of the power imbalance, a lesson carved into her psyche. The court remains unaware, or chooses to ignore, the tension that coils around her like a serpent. She walks through the palace, her heart pounding against her chest, the echo of each footstep a metronome of dread. The king watches, a shadow cast over her every move, until even the familiar corridors of her childhood feel alien and threatening. Her tutors speak in riddles, their lessons loaded with caution, teaching obedience while hinting at danger. Every meal, every audience with the king, becomes a performance, a test of endurance. What becomes of innocence when power perverts love? The sister struggles to reconcile the man she once admired with the force that now dictates her life. Courtiers watch in silence, advisors weigh moral duty against political survival, and the palace itself seems complicit, its ornate halls stretching into darkness, hiding every whispered word and every stolen glance. Stretching into darkness, hiding every whispered word and every stolen glance. A chance encounter in a shadowed gallery, a hand resting too long on hers. A letter that disappears before she can seal it. The fear of discovery, the knowledge of her isolation, and the constant pressure to conform create a storm of psychological torment. Each day she survives becomes a fragile triumph. Each night a trial of endurance against forces she cannot name. The king's obsession is no longer hidden. It shapes the court itself. Marriages are delayed, alliances tested, loyalty strained. Even the servants, silent witnesses to late-night corridors and hastily extinguished candles, sense the weight of a scandal that could topple reputations and lives alike. The sister's world, once defined by structure and expectation, now bends around an unspoken, inescapable control. And so the palace, once a symbol of power and majesty, becomes a stage for obsession, coercion, and fear. The gilded walls, the flickering candles, the polished marble floors, all bear witness to the slow, suffocating transformation of a young girl's life under the shadow of a brother who mistakes dominance for love. The king's obsession, unchecked and escalating, sets the stage for events that will leave scars on her soul and echoes across history. She moves through the corridors, silent and watchful, knowing that each day could bring a new danger, a new test. Could she survive this labyrinth of power and obsession, or would the palace itself consume her innocence entirely? Archival portraits of the king and sister, reenactments of palace corridors, close-ups of intercepted letters, gestures and body language, dramatic lighting to highlight tension. The corridors of the palace, once echoing with whispered tension, now feel empty, yet heavy, as though the walls themselves remember every stolen glance, every command, every unspoken threat. The sister, once the center of the king's obsessive attention, has grown older, her innocence fractured, but her resilience quietly enduring. Forced into a marriage arranged more for political expedience than affection, she moves through her new life with a careful detachment. Behind her composed exterior, psychological scars thrum like a quiet drumbeat, memories of coercion, fear, and a trust shattered before it could fully form. Imagine her mornings, sunlight filtering through tall windows, yet the warmth cannot reach the corners of her mind where dread still lingers. Every gesture, every smile, carries the weight of learned vigilance. Even in a new household, she senses the lingering shadow of the king's obsession, a reminder that power, once misused, leaves marks that span decades. She wields influence now, but it is tempered by caution. Decisions that might have been simple, for another, are measured and calculated. Alliances forged not in love, but in the quiet understanding of survival. The king's reputation does not escape unscathed. Rumors of his obsession with his sister ripple through the courts of Europe. Diplomats note it, spies record it, chroniclers whisper it. His brilliant mind and political acumen cannot fully mask the scandal that spreads like wildfire, each retelling, sharpening the edges of disgrace. Alliances that once seemed secure now wobble. Trusted courtiers, previously loyal, hedge their bets, their faith fractured by fear and disapproval. Power, once absolute, begins to crack under the weight of perception. Whispers of scandal do not die quietly. The Habsburg dynasty, for all its wealth and influence, bears the consequences of forbidden bonds. Negotiations falter, marriages are postponed, and rival courts seize upon any sign of weakness. Trust is fractured, loyalty becomes conditional, and the once unshakable image of imperial control is tarnished. Family trees, carefully constructed, now carry stains that cannot be erased. Historians later debate the details, but the evidence of disrupted succession and strained alliances is unmistakable. Even decades later, the sister's influence echoes through history. Her early trauma informs her later decisions, subtle acts of diplomacy, careful patronage, and cautious guidance of her children. The court learns to fear the quiet authority of someone who has survived both palace intrigue and the private obsession of a king. Her life, though outwardly constrained, becomes a testament to survival under impossible circumstances. She embodies the tension between power and vulnerability, a living reminder of how cruelty shapes resilience, and yet the king's shadow lingers. Even as he ages, even as his political victories accumulate, the stain of his obsession cannot be scrubbed from memory. Courtiers recount tales of whispered corridors, intercepted letters, and secret meetings with a mixture of fear and fascination. The scandal haunts not only the palace, but the broader tapestry of European diplomacy. What was once private now influences public perception, forever entwining personal obsession with political consequence. The shadows of their forbidden bond haunt the Habsburg court for generations. Portraits of ancestors are studied with curiosity, letters are scrutinized for hints of transgression, and historians debate morality and power with a mixture of awe and horror. The sisters' story becomes emblematic of the unseen suffering behind dynastic ambition, a reminder that even the most powerful families are not immune to human frailty, obsession, and cruelty. In the quiet of Madrid's palaces, in the folds of history's tapestries, one question remains. When power perverts love and ambition overshadows innocence, who truly survives? And who is forever consumed by the shadows of the past? Timeline graphics showing succession and alliances, evolution of the Habsburg family tree, archival letters and portraits, historian commentary detailing the scandal's long-term political consequences. Power and obsession can twist the closest bonds of family into cages of suffering. Even within the gilded halls of kings and queens, love can be weaponized and innocence traded for ambition. Though centuries have passed, the hunger for control and its victims remains painfully timeless. We see it in courts, in families, in the quiet corners of power where loyalty and fear collide. Could anyone escape the consequences of blood ties, or are some fates written before birth? If this story shocked you, subscribe and uncover more dark histories hidden behind palace walls.